I'm trying something new. A special series that takes us from loop to layout begins now on JC's Riptrack. Hi there, my name is John and welcome to JC's Riptrack. If this is your first time here and you're looking for advice and tips on how to transform your plastic models into something that looks like it belongs on the rails today, then click on subscribe and that little bell icon so you can be notified anytime there's a new video. So what books or resources have you used to develop your layout? Has it been John Allen, Tony Custer, Ron Marsh? Let me know in the comment section below. When I started getting back into model railroading as an adult in the early 2000s, I decided that my return would be in N-scale, largely because of space considerations. I bought books of track plans, John Allen's Track Planning for Realistic Operations, for example, and immersed myself in whatever resources I could find. In the midst of this, I found a little gem online called The Evolution of a 3x5 N-gauge Layout by Chris Roper of Hout Bay, South Africa. I found it to be a really helpful read in giving both a background and a workable track plan that could fit in a small space. It was originally published online in 1999 with a few revisions in subsequent years. Recently, I decided to come back to this article to see if it could offer any insights as I started really working on my own layout. I had developed a track plan that I shared in an earlier video, but not surprisingly, I have second-guessed myself and was a bit worried that I had bitten off more than I could chew. I thought that I could come back to the basics and I could use Chris's guide and I could share that with you. Except there was one small snag. The article disappeared from the internet. Some things do have a shelf life, and after 20 years since its first publication and 17 since its last update, the server that hosted it is now gone. Fortunately, I managed to find it on the Wayback Machine, but if it wasn't for that, Mr. Roper's article would have been lost. So in some ways, this effort has become suddenly more pressing. So to mark the 20th anniversary of this little-known gem, I'm creating this series called From Loop to Layout, which borrows a number of the ideas from Mr. Roper's article. However, as the copyright still lies with him and I've not been able to get in touch with him, the track plan that you see evolve through this series will have several differences from the original, including what I use as a starting point. Still, I do need to acknowledge the idea and the origins for this series, and Mr. Roper, if you are watching this, please contact me through this channel. One of the real challenges when designing a layout is that while you can start with paper or track planning software, it almost always changes once you start laying track. One of the hardest things to do in model railroading is committing to a track plan, especially if you're like me and want to explore all sorts of different options. As a beginner when it comes to track-related stuff, I'm almost scared to commit to a plan because of a fear of getting so far that the track plan that I've committed to isn't working the way that I hoped, or I get bored with it. Fortunately, there is a way to play around a little bit and to let your layout evolve, using a track system that can be quickly assembled and dismantled. For my own layout and for this series, I'm using N-scale Kato Unitrack. As a sectional track that can be quickly assembled or dismantled, it allows this kind of playing around with track configurations that can be quickly and easily changed. It means that I can try several things out first before committing to it, something that is especially important for anyone who is just starting out in the hobby. Now, I may end up with something close to my original track plan that I shared with you last December, but going through this series, we're going to evolve into it. Now, there are several YouTube model railroaders who use Unitrack, most notably Roy Smith of the N-scale Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision and Mike Fifer of Fifer Hobby. Along the way, I will be showing you how Unitrack can be convincingly weathered, since this is a weathering channel, and while it will never be realistic enough for some in the hobby, for anyone who is just beginning, this is a great way to start. Kato makes several base and expansion sets that can be combined to create a workable layout that can be assembled in a few different ways, and that's why it's ideal to demonstrate the process of moving from loop to layout. Now, before I get too far, there's a few things I want to point out. While I will be demonstrating this using my own N-scale Kato Unitrack, this can also work in HO scale, but the space considerations need to be a little bit bigger. Normally, we N-scalers have to convert downward to N-scale, but if you need to do it in reverse, HO scale is about 183% larger than N-scale. Some of the track plans that I show here in N-scale do have HO scale equivalents, so I will be suggesting those along the way. The first thing that you need before even getting a starter kit is a surface to put the track on. For myself, I am using a 36 by 80 inch hollow core door that I have attached legs to. I added about 6 inches last December, so my total space is about 36 by 86 inches. The nice thing is that you can start on a kitchen or dining room table if you're just playing around. In fact, before I even move this downstairs, my dining room table is going to show the basic loop. For this entire series, we are starting with the basic loop of track that comes in the Kato Master 1 or M1 starter sets. The M1 set either comes on its own or what comes automatically when you buy any of the Kato starter train and track sets. The M2 set also works because it combines the M1 and V1 kits, and it will be the first set I'll be coming into. These sets also come with a basic DC controller, even though I will be using a digital command and control system with my own layout. Even if you're not going to be using a DC system, the controller that comes with the Kato set can be used to power the turnouts, and I'll be getting that into a later video. As we progress, I'll be working with some but not all of the variation sets. The goal is to create an operational layout in a smaller space, so we will use what we need. Sometimes individual tracks are a better way to go, but the master and variation sets are a quick way to get into it, which is why that's our starting point. The truth is, I bought all of my track individually, but for what I'm showing for this first part is what you would get if you bought one of the master or early variation sets. So with a bit of playing space and some track, it's time to get started. In the next video, I'll be showing a quick setup, some things that you can do with it, and how to quickly start expanding if you want to add some interest to your layout. So while this isn't quite my usual weathering fare, I thought that this series might be helpful to anyone who's just getting started in the hobby. If this is something that you find helpful, then please click on subscribe and the little bell icon that appears beside it if you want to be notified anytime I put out a new video. Check out some of the other links below as well as my various social media links. So I look forward to this, and thanks for watching. Good luck, and may you keep on track.